and welcome to So What You're Saying Is. I'm Peter Whittle. Now, my guest today is very much the man of the moment. I'm pleased to say he's not a stranger to this programme, but I'm delighted that at this particular time he's come back to talk to us. Laurence Fox. Laurence, a lot has happened since we last spoke, but what I wanted to start by asking you was that when I last spoke to you, I said, would you ever become a politician? Would you ever stand? And I think your words were said, well, no, I think I'm a bit emotional. I think that's what you said. But I want to ask you now that obviously, you know, we all know you're starting your own party. What happened? What changed?
Well, I was approached, and also I'd started to speak anyway to some Tories MPs and sort of try and offer my bit to say, look, these are the issues that are concerning me. Why is the Conservative Party not moving on these, seeing as that's the point of the Conservative Party, is to conserve things, essentially, certainly culturally and traditionally. And they were very nice, but I just got this very strong sense that it was like, it's really not top of our agenda. So I was then approached and by Jeremy, who said to me, what would you like to do? And I said, well, I want to hold them to account for the responsibilities that they owe.
This will be Jeremy
Hosking. To hold them to account, to put some pressure on them. And I suppose the only place one can put pressure on them is saying I might take those votes you borrowed off the northern red wall and threaten you that way. It's not so much to threaten. One doesn't want to threaten, but one wants to say, this is important. Our country, the fabric of our country is disintegrating in many, many ways. You need to address this as a matter of urgency. And I suppose the interesting thing was it worked pretty quickly, as I noticed on the first, as they came out with a raft of, culturally relevant policies.
Yes, that was actually quite interesting, wasn't it? Because you were going to you announced, or at least it was in the Telegraph, shall we say, on Sunday, to the new party, and at the same time we had Charles Moore being appointed possibly to the BBC and Paul Dacre to Ofcom.
Yes, one wonders whether my reaching out to them in some way prepped them for what was going to happen. But at the end of the day, these are good things. So I'm happy about that.
But when you say you spoke to Tories, Laurence, and you said that you felt it wasn't at the top of their agenda, do you think this is because they simply don't understand, or is it just a practical political thing?
Well, I think they've got a lot on their plates, don't they, with COVID and with the economy and with Brexit, and there's a lot on their plate. But I think what they don't understand is that these cultural issues are infecting all of those discussions as we go. I did also get the feeling that we weren't really being governed by them, that we're in some sort of technocracy now for the next 4 years. So I think it's good to put the wind up them. And also there's a huge number of people. The other thing that affected me was wherever I go, people of all different hues, height, shades of everything, and sexual orientations and all of the diversity boxes, kept coming up to me and saying, thank you, I now feel like I've got something I could vote for.
Well, actually, when you've been on this show before, and you regularly have had about 300,000 views, which for shows such as this on YouTube is a lot, the number of comments that come through saying that kind of thing, he speaks for us, thank goodness someone's speaking up. So there is this sense, isn't there, amongst people that they just simply are not being heard.
They feel very disenfranchised, and I think to the British especially, it's the fabric of society is so important, but the things that we're collectivising around don't mean anything to us. So we need to be collectivising around things like good manners, mutual respect, allowing someone to have a different point of view to yours, and not to beat them down and cancel them if they're not saying the correct ideological thing. And it's I suppose it is, in a way, with the booting out of the church and the structure that gave us in the way that we would look at our whole lives, it's been replaced by this new religion that is having disastrous effects on everybody. And I suppose initially I had a platform, I now have a bigger one, and I feel responsible for some of the people that come up to me and tell me the stories of their lives. I had a man in tears talking to me on the street the other day.
Really?
Saying how utterly terrified he was to say anything anymore within the circle that he worked in, and he started crying. And you think, this is not the country that is progressive.
Do you know, we get here quite a few emails, or I get emails from people who maybe want to tell me what's going on in their company or institution, but they are saying the same thing. Basically, please keep this between us, or please do not use my name anywhere, because they don't want to lose their jobs.
Sad, isn't it?
Yes, it's appalling. You've chosen the name Reclaim. Is that final? Is that the name now?
It's on its way through the Electoral Commission. So, right. As you know, oh too well, we were rumbled a bit early because there was going to be a report coming out in, I think, last Saturday's Times saying that myself and Nigel Farage were starting a party together, which isn't true. And then I thought we're going to need to get ahead of that because, you know, newspapers love reporting things that aren't true, as we've noticed. So. It's on its way through the Electoral Commission. I love the word reclaim because essentially I see it as a reclamation of the conversation. Again, not this unifaceted way that we're all looking at the world. You know, currently the emphasis being on race. Everything's about race. You know, structural inequality is all about race, and it's not. It's multifaceted. So to reclaim the conversation, one has to do that through reason. It's the only way you can do it. You have a reasoned argument. You can understand that stop and search is not just because someone's black. There is many, or white. There are many other issues coming into it. So I think it's about reclaiming the conversation. I think it's about doing that through really solid, respectful, well-mannered, mutual, respectful discussions between people. Yeah. And then only then, if the ambition of the party, which it is to allow our society to progress rather than doing what it's doing is stagnate and regress, we have to look at what needs to be reformed. Where are these institutions that are supporting or doing their best to destabilise our culture and which actually hate our culture, which I find so awful? And those institutions need reform.
Well, we've had this summer, you know, in the past couple of months since we spoke, you know, the BBC with the proms, and we've had the British Library, the British Museum, the National Trust. What was interesting about the proms was it was pretty much your taking the lead there, which I think, you know, that must have given people a tip-off, actually. Oh, this guy could actually, you know, he's putting his money where his mouth is, as it were.
I was very upset about the proms. Yeah. I don't feel that we have this sort of hubris now where we can look at every situation in life and apply our modern judgment to it, like we've arrived at the end of history or the end of progress, and we'll sit there and go, we'll remove those. No, that's it. And there's nothing democratic about it. There's nothing. It's very negative. Essentially, I hate negativity when it comes to history because you can't look at history in that way, like you are somehow better than these people. They lived in their time, we live in our time. So yes, I said to, I remembered that the chart show on the BBC do have to play the top 10, don't they? And so I suggested that people perhaps could download or buy or stream a particular version of it, Vera Lynn's version of it. And I think at one point it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 in the Amazon, download charts. So it just goes to show that we are. It's almost like our tolerance is being abused in a lot of ways. We're very tolerant people, and then you go, we're just taking those out. We're taking the words out because we think they mean something. And it's assuming that your audience don't also have that nuance of thinking and that they couldn't make up their own minds, which they can and should be allowed to. They should be free to express their own views on these things. So it was amazing, and I was very heartened by the fact that people stood up against it. And they put the words back, and Boris suddenly appeared on TV saying that very peculiar line, they'll hate me for saying this, or they'll...
Yes, they tried to stop me.
They'll try to stop me. Yeah. And then I thought, oh, well, that's good. It got everyone behind it, and you're never going to please the people that hate our country and want to see it replaced with something else, but you are emboldening those that feel disenfranchised, voiceless, and they go, no, actually, I really stand by it. And there was a very pernicious little part of the thing where they said it's a perfect opportunity without there being an audience there.
Exactly.
To overtake a piece of our cultural heritage. We are the custodians of that heritage. We're not there to sit and judge. Otherwise, we'll sit and judge each other all day. And how does that help people?
But the thing is, now, I mean, you sort of led this, and in fact, sheer public pressure made them change their minds. But you've sort of gone one much bigger, actually. Now you're giving people something to vote for, aren't you? Mm-hmm. I mean, that is. How does that feel psychologically? I mean, you've given up a career to do this, and that is really something, Laurence. Isn't it? I mean, how have you felt this past week since it's become known? I mean, how have you felt?
I felt very good. It was quite stressful, I have to say. Yeah. But I think the thing about this is that one feels compelled. I feel duty bound to do it for my kids, for the relationships that I'm witnessing around me that are slightly disintegrating. But people are falling out. Really close friends are falling out over very simple cultural issues, over allowing someone to have an opinion and stuff like that, a different opinion. So I felt compelled and duty bound to do it. So I feel very positive in that way. In the other way, you're using a slightly different part of your brain. As an actor, all you're doing is reacting, and I think good acting is reacting well. But political life seems to be about being very proactive. And one of the things that I really have loved about it is, as an actor, people will nod sagely whatever you say on set because they're told to. Actors are quite important, so they'll go, yes, wonderful. I love the way you did that as you wafted your hand this way or you turned sideways and looked. You're treated like a sort of demigod. And it's been a constant, nobody treats me like a demigod anymore. No. They're like, right, why do you think that? What about this? And I'm suddenly entering into the kind of conversations that I really enjoy, which I would have with my family or my friends, and I'm now having them professionally. And I'm meeting what I always was told by my wonderful dad, the audience that you're meant to respect more than yourself. And I don't feel, if you can move the analogy from a nation to an audience, I don't feel that audience are being respected. And they're not being allowed to tell their own stories and feel free to tell their own stories and be allowed to feel things like hope again. It's all self-censorship, and it's very pernicious.
How you mentioned your family there, what's their reaction been to what you're doing?
Well, I'm blessed by the most wonderful dad ever, who I walk with an hour a day.
I should say as well, but for those who don't know, this is James Fox, who's one of our finest actors. Yeah. Who's also, I would say actually, I think I can say, has been a solid supporter of us here, on the New Culture Forum. He's been watching it and, writing. It's lovely.
He introduced me to you.
Oh, right, okay.
To the New Culture Forum. He has no desire, my dad, for any digital life whatsoever, which I think is wonderful at his age. He's just gone, I don't want a digital life at all. But so he's not on any of the platform social media stuff. Goodness, the world would be a better place if he was, because he's wise. So I have a lot of support from him. I told him the other day, for example, having had a conversation with some business people that I had worked with who'd come out with the standard line of, we feel very uncomfortable representing you because you're a racist. And I said, what have I said that's racist? Could you have an example? Just a single example. And they never seem to have one. So I think the word racist has just gone, you're problematic, out the way, please, chum. And I phoned up my dad to say, I felt really upset about that, and he said, well, you're in the wrong job, son. Because if that will upset you, you wait to see what's coming your way next. And I thought, so he's been a real support. My family are a very tight and loving unit, but we all, thanks to my amazing mum, who sadly passed away this year, we all think very different thoughts. But I think we all want to end up in the same place.
Yes. Which
is kind of fine. As I've said to you before, my top chum is a socialist, but we want to end up in the same place. We just have, he's insane. Sorry. but he just has the wrong way of looking at it, in my view.
Yes. What can people sort of expect in the next few months from what's happening? I mean, as it stands at the moment, can they sign up and support you? Can they do that at the moment?
Yes, they can sign up and support me on the reclaimparty.com, I think it is. And we've already had over 10,000 people, which is pretty good.
Amazing.
And that was without us pushing it, because obviously as we had to come out in such a rush, and before the Reclaim Party had been registered, we had to call it the Laurence Fox Party for a couple of days, which garnered quite a bit of right mockery on the social media platforms. So now it's up and running in the correct way. I'm sitting down every day talking to my little policy team and people that I'm being put in touch with, so I can say, this is what I want, this is what my views are, and people are helping me then, with their great expertise, move those into what the policy platform would be. And then we will launch officially once we've got through the Electoral Commission, and try and sort of keep it. I want to go, for example, what I want to do is I want to go up to where I was born in Leeds, and go and meet all the people that were my peers when I was a young boy, because as a young boy I was, I grew up in Leeds, and then Dad started acting again and we came back down to London. Otherwise it would have been thee and thou from me talking like that, wouldn't it? So I want to go and meet them and go back to where I was born and go and have a pint in the pub with Uncle Alan, who's not an uncle, but we call him Uncle Alan, and find out what's going on up there, because I think I don't think what I'm trying to do is is particularly married to London. No. I feel it's not really married to London, actually. I left London the other day to go and do something, and I was shocked just in a few months how much of a different country London felt like to the rest of the country.
Yes, it's a sort of sensibility, isn't it, that's entirely different about London now. I mean, I think that I would have thought your great strengths of any new movement would be, as it were, in the country as a whole.
Why not?
Yeah.
Also, they're much more. I mean, I'm not trying to be unnecessarily down on London, but some of these values that it's a very, obviously it's a tricky word, British values, but some of these things that you're looking for, you find outside of London much more often than you find in London. London is a place where you can often be drawn to people who think in the same way as you, and your social circle can sort of narrow down. And I don't imagine, for example, that there are huge numbers of Brexiteer, Remainer social groups going on in London. I imagine people find their comfort area and they lodge in there. Whereas one of the wonderful things about the countryside as a whole is you don't always, in a small community, get to choose your friends in such a way, because so you're getting to know people. Someone will have to fix your fence and you'll have to help them with their chimney that's falling off. And ultimately, over long periods of time, I mean, I lived outside of London for nearly 10 years, you end up really respecting someone for who they are, for their differences, actually, more than your similarities. And so there's a much broader, more forgiving nature outside London. There's a much friendlier nature outside London. So in a sort of microcosm in London, the mask thing is a big deal. But if you go out to the countryside, and you go into a bar or a hotel or something like that, they always say, "I'm so sorry, I'm wearing a mask," and they'll pull it down so you can see their face. Instead of being scowled at for whatever you're doing wrong mask-wise in town.
Well, it's not actually even people want to necessarily disobey restriction. It's just the manner in which it's done, it seems to me. If people are being humorous and saying, "Oh God, look what they've got us doing now," then it becomes more, what I can't bear is this sort of the emergence of this kind of starving quality. At least I find a lot. I'm in London all the time, so I find it a lot, But what I wanted to ask you, I haven't asked you ever before, Laurence, is, obviously you've always been interested in political issues, but do you have any people in history that, political people that, or even for that matter, non-political people that you would call your heroes, that you think, that is a wonderful life that, or that you really admire,
I think my history is, I did history A-level, so I didn't go beyond that. But my where I get my love from is language, because I obviously studied language a great deal. So, you know, I was reading What a Piece of Work Is. I've got Shakespeare 365 days a year for my eldest son. So I read him a bit of Shakespeare every night. And I was reading him What a Piece of Work Is a Man last night. And he just loved it so much. So I admire great literary figures. I also admire, if I'm honest, I admire people that stand up in the face of adversity and say, we will fight them on the beaches. You know, I love it. And I know that there's a concerted and, you know, wise idea to contextualise what Churchill achieved. But I'm like, good for you, chum. Can you imagine what would have happened if there'd been a Twitter poll on whether we should allow Operation Sea Lion to take place?
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Just doesn't bear thinking about.
It doesn't bear thinking about. So I think we are slightly, we need to also reclaim that sense of the underdog who is willing to take on the world and also bring greatness to the world. We have done some great stuff in this world. We've exported democracy around the world. India is still the biggest democracy on the planet. We've exported our language and our common law. It's like, well done us, is what I want to say to the people of this country. Well done you. And for all of you that are fighting to protect it, good for you. And for those that wish to destroy it, good luck up against us lot.
Do you think, therefore, that you are part, or even at the head of, a sort of a swinging back of the pendulum? I mean, do you, or you know, when we talked at the beginning about Charles Moore and these BBC appointments and what have you, you know, that might have been opportunistic on their part, but occasionally one senses actually that maybe things are starting to change a little bit. Is that too optimistic?
I don't think you can ever be too optimistic, really. I mean, I think, you know, managing expectations is a good thing. I've always been one of those prepare for the worst, hope for the best type people. But yeah, I think that people are tired of finishing a very hard day's work as their standards of living are going down. Standards of living aren't going up. And then they're turning on the TV and then they're being told by the BBC or Keir Starmer, for example, that we're all a bunch of racists at the end of the day.
Or Prince Harry now.
Oh, Prince Harry, that great thought leader. That great thought leader. I mean, I'm criticised for not being much of a thought leader, but Prince Harry really. Have you read what they say? And I listen to it, and it's like corporate speak. It doesn't make any sense at all. And also, this is the other huge problem with this new religion is they can't even on any level spot their own hypocrisy. You've got what is termed a BAME princess, and had Prince Harry talking to us about privilege, and it's like, do stop. And also, I have a huge issue with BAME as a word. This way that we sort of, us white liberal London saviours turn around to people that are even slightly different skin colours and go, well, we'll lump you all in there, along with the LGBT crew, because we are so compassionate. But when you hear that Donald Trump has got COVID, you jump for joy and say you hope he dies. Actually,
this was we were recording this, you know, on the day that it's just been announced about Donald Trump, and you know, this idea of the caring, sharing, thoughtful left is, well, if anyone still believed it, it's been entirely blown out of the water by their response to this kind of thing. I saw an actor, Dominic West, saying, you know, something like, "I jumped for joy" or something like that. I mean, you know, appalling stuff, really. But I don't think the majority of people are like that. I think, you know, you are a big Twitter man, aren't you?
I like taking them on.
Are you going to continue with that?
I don't know. I've got the party Twitter, which I can probably say the sensible things. But I take these people on. I think, why not? What's so nice is if I take a pop at somebody for being, you know, vile hypocrite, especially this idea of the fact that the loving, tolerant left, and then them jumping for joy, like Dominic West has said he has, thinking that people would be on the side with that, is the cognitive dissonance of that I find very, very peculiar. So I think my presence on Twitter is worthwhile, if only to say I'll say something, and then people who follow me go, well, I actually feel that I can take a pop at that situation now, instead of having to feel quiet. And that's what mostly happens when people come and speak to me in the street, is that they say thank you, because I feel that I can now say what I want to say. So absolutely, you know, I think I'm extremely optimistic, because it feels like this balloon has been growing for decades. And we're all squashed into the corner of the room at what started off as a tiny little balloon. And, you know, why not? What's wrong with someone going, pop?
Do you know when people do come up to you in the street and say that kind of thing? I mean, broadly speaking, you know, with your party, obviously you'd say that those are the people. But if you had to sort of sum up who you'd be appealing to, you know, who would they be? How would you describe?
I think it's currently we sort of live in a one-party state called lockdown, don't we? And fear and lockdown. So it's anybody who wants to be against those things and genuinely wants to be more progressive. I mean, the odd thing is, without wishing to sound all virtue signally, which it does, is the people that I'm working with specifically around policy have been very young, intelligent people that are not white-skinned, because they're saying, I'm British. The patronising nature of the way that I'm being spoken to makes me have skin in this game, because I don't want to be discarded or demeaned based on the colour of my skin, because essentially what all of this critical race theory that Keir Starmer particularly is bought into is extremely patronising and racist, I hate to say. So, and I was walking through the Camberwell Mall the other day, and there was, you know, there was an old black lady with her trolley going through out of Poundland, and she grabbed me by the cheeks, destroying the social distancing world, and went, thank you. So I don't know, but I know that I'm talking to a lot of people, because I'm finding it pretty hard to go anywhere without factoring in an extra 15 minutes to stop and say hi to people.
You've also been getting, I think, a lot of free cab drives, haven't you?
I got another one yesterday morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, thank goodness.
But this is it's a very odd feeling when that happens, isn't it? I mean, when people, they are entrusting you with something, aren't they? And it brings out, I suppose, humbleness. I don't know.
Well, I'm entrusting them too, if you think about it, because my desire is not to be right. I've got no interest in being right. My desire is for other people to be able to. There is a sort of corollary, or whatever the word is. What is it?
Corollary.
There is a corollary between sitting on a stage acting and having an audience, and the audience watching and being very engaged, and you all start to feel like you're together. And then you finish and people come outside and they're talking about it and they're excited and they're interested, and it feels very buzzing and happy. There is that connection, which is that every single person should be able to tell their own story in that way. So I feel like, yes, I will be the person that gets punched in the face by Marina Hyde relentlessly, or any other, you know, journalist who has no interest. I did actually write to The Guardian yesterday and say, could I write a piece to your readers? It'd be lovely to express, you know, pitch my case to them.
And what did they say?
What do you reckon they said? It seems that The Guardian, free speech bastion, The Guardian, aren't interested, which is fine. But
they've got worse, actually. They've got much, much worse now. I mean, they're sort of like identity politics straight down the line, and that's it.
It's awful.
You know,
what a horrible thing to do to a culture.
Now, when this goes out, underneath will be lots of comments from people, and very nice ones, I'm sure. But they will all really be wanting to know how they can get involved and what they can do. Now, you've said that they can sign up, whatever, but when it comes to I know that obviously you're in very early stages, but, you know, will you be, you know, your political party, so you'll be standing, So you'll be standing obviously maybe in the local elections next year, will you, or?
This is the plan,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the plan, we're working towards that. And at the moment we're not having members, because it's these I mean, without wishing to bore the audience about the complexities of setting up a political party, there are many. So you can register to support, register your details, and on thereclaimparty.com, I think it is, I'd have to double check. And as we're closer to launch, we will be providing everyone with, things that they can do.
And the launch will be sort of sometime imminently, so what, in a couple of months or within?
Yeah, at least a couple of months.
Okay.
I think you've got to. I wasn't planning on getting rumbled really, so it's all come as a bit of a rush. But yeah, no, we're going to come out with some absolute crackers and give people something to believe in.
Okay. Well, we'll put actually the link on this video underneath it. But look, all the very, very best.
Thank you.
And I think it's fantastic to have a new party, and that you are the man doing it. And Laurence, and all the very best to you. And we shall see how things go. But I think it's very, very exciting, isn't it?
Well, we've already made a bit of change.
Yes.
We've only been going a week.
Yeah.
So, dream on.
Okay. Thanks, Laurence, very much. That's it for So What You're Saying Is this week. Do please subscribe, won't you? Keep us going. And I shall see you next week. Thank you.